Roy Sullivan was a United States park ranger in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia between 1942 and 1977. Sullivan was struck by lightning on 7 different occasions and incredibly survived every time. For this reason, he gained a nickname, Human Lightning Conductor, or Human Lightning Rod. Sullivan is recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the person who has been hit by lightning more times than any other human being. He died at the age of 71 from a self-inflicted gunshot over an unrequited love. In 2003, ARON Ralston, a 28-year-old mechanical engineer, decided to head to the Canyonlands National Park in Utah for some lonely hiking. While he was descending a slot canyon, a suspended boulder, which he dislodged while climbing down the canyon, crushed his right hand against the canyon wall. After 3 days of trying to lift and break the boulder, the dehydrated and delirious Ralston prepared to amputate his trapped right arm at a point on the mid-forearm in order to escape. To perform the amputation, Ralston tried to use a box cutter, but once he cut through the muscle, nerve, and joint, he realized that he could not complete the operation with that tool. Eventually, on the 5th day, he decided to break the bone of equity by leveraging the stone crushing him. Incredibly, after the amputation, he said that he found himself in the grip of euphoria. Later, Ralston was given a triple prosthesis, which can be mounted on 8 different hands. British film director Danny Boyle directed the film 127 Hours, a film highlighting the story of Ralston's accident. Lieutenant Ivan Chisov was a navigator on a Soviet Air Force Ilyushin IL-4 bomber. In January 1942, German fighters attacked his bomber and forced him to bail out. So he did. Chisov leapt from the plane at an altitude of approximately 7,000 meters or 23,000 feet. With the battle still raging around him, Lieutenant Chisov intentionally did not open his parachute since he feared that he would just be an easy target for an angry German. He planned to open his chute once he was out of sight of the German fighters. However, due to the thin atmosphere at that altitude, he lost consciousness on the way down and was unable to pull the ripcord. He hit the edge of a snowy ravine at an estimated speed of somewhere between 120 and 150 miles per hour. He then slid, rolled, and plowed his way down to the bottom. Cavalrymen rushed to the site and were surprised to find Chisov alive, still wearing his unopened parachute. Chisov suffered severe injuries, including spinal injuries and a broken pelvis. Despite his injuries, he was able to fly again 3 months later. He requested to continue flying combat missions, but was instead sent to become a navigational trainer. In 2007, 41-year-old Eric Naris was fishing for abalone near the town of Eden, south of Sydney. He was suddenly attacked by one of the ocean's deadliest predators, a 10-foot great white shark. The shark dragged him 8 meters below the surface, then swallowed his head, upper body, and right arm. Desperately, Eric tried to locate the shark's eye socket with his left hand and jabbed 2 fingers inside. The shark reacted by opening its mouth, and Eric swam to the surface, still in danger, surrounded by blood. He called for help and was rescued by his 25-year-old son. He was then flown to the hospital where he was treated for multiple lacerations and a broken nose. Nestor Mata is a Philippine journalist whose writing career spans 6 decades. In 1957, he was on a flight back to Manila with President of the Philippines, Ramon Magsaysay. Tragically, their plane crashed in Mount Manongal in Cebu, which killed 25 passengers including the president and all crew members. But not him. Mata was rescued by farmers residing near the crash site. He suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns all over his body and would be hospitalized for the next 6 months. Mata penned One Came Back in 1957, a memoir detailing the last moments of President Magsaysay and his own ordeal after surviving the plane crash. Vesna Vulovic is a former flight attendant. In 1972, she was involved in the plane crash of a scheduled flight on which she worked. The plane exploded at 10,000 meters of altitude due to a bomb. She survived the explosion and the ensuing fall from 10,000 meters up without a parachute. She was found stuck on some air wreckage and reported several fractures around her body, including her skull, vertebrae, and legs, and she remained in a coma for 27 days. After a few months of rehab, she recovered fully and returned to fly as a hostess. Vesna Vulovic was given the Guinness record in 1985 by Paul McCartney for the highest fall without a parachute at 10,160 meters. Michael Holmes, the skydiver who fell 12,000 feet from the sky and lived. He was one of the top 10 skydivers in the world with 7,000 jumps under his belt. Michael Holmes was doing what he thought was another routine jump, 2.2 miles above Lake Taupo in New Zealand, when he tugs at the ripcord to release his parachute, but nothing happens. He then attempts to release his reserve parachute, but with no luck. With dying now a very real possibility, Holmes waves goodbye to the world and screams a last message into his microphone. He crashes over the blackberry bushes. His buddy joined him moments later and asked him if he was okay. He said no, but incredibly was alive. Michael Holmes only suffered a punctured lung and a broken ankle from a fall of 12,000 feet. Betty Lou Oliver survived 2 major accidents on the same day. Oliver was the elevator operator for the Empire State Building at 9:40 on Saturday, July 28, 1945, while she was working on the 80th story of the building. Due to thick fog, a B-25 Mitchell bomber crashed into the north side of the building between the 79th and 80th floors. 14 people died, 11 in the building and 3 occupants of the aircraft, including the pilot. Oliver survived the impact and received severe burns. After treating her injuries, first aid workers put her in an elevator to send her down to the main floor, but the cables of that elevator had been weakened by the crash and broke. As a result, Oliver plummeted 75 stories to the basement. Luckily, she survived, thanks to the thousands of feet of elevator cable that had fallen to the bottom of the shaft, creating a softer landing surface. The rapid compression of the air also likely helped slow the elevator's fall. This descent still stands as the Guinness World Record for the longest survived elevator fall ever recorded. 5 months later, Oliver returned with an elevator inspector who complimented her guts in riding the elevator to the full height of the building on that visit.